This video is going to go over problems that can occur with the ATM's vault door switch, how to adjust it, how to replace it, and if necessary, how to bypass it so you can keep a machine in the field operating. We're going to be using a Genmega 2500 for this demonstration. However, this concept applies to all of our machines as they all use the same type of door switch. The vault door switch error code will appear on the screen as 20004 error code, vault door open. And it can manifest in two different ways. If the error is intermittent, meaning it goes on and off, that's usually a switch problem that needs to be adjusted. If the error code is on all the time and you can't get it to clear, then that's generally a problem. But if you come up and the machine is in service or out of service, and if you can push the door or wiggle the door a little bit and get that code to go on and off, it usually means the switch needs to be adjusted. To adjust the vault door switch, first open the vault door and locate the vault door switch, which is in the upper right corner on the side of the vault. It's mounted to a metal bracket. There is a small plunger that goes into this groove so that when you close the door, it pushes in on the plunger and closes the switch. To adjust the switch, there are two Phillips head screws. If you loosen the screws and then pull back on this metal bracket, make sure that the plunger is all the way into that hole and then tighten the screws back down. Once you've adjusted the screws, close the vault door and test by pressing against the vault door and pulling to see if you can get the error code to trigger on the screen. In the event that adjusting the switch does not solve the problem, or if the vault door switch error is on all the time and moving the door doesn't fix anything, then the next thing we're going to want to do is try and bypass the switch. There's obviously some kind of a problem in that case, and either the switch is malfunctioning or there's a problem with the wiring. So to try to bypass the switch, what we're going to want to do is come in here and unplug the black and red wire from the top of the switch. Just pull back on it and then push these rubber boots that cover the terminals at the end of the wires, push them back so that you can connect these two wires together. These are two what they call spade connectors, and you can turn them one upside down and the two will interlock like this, and you can leave it like that. When you connect those wires like that, the error message on the screen should immediately change from 20004 to back into service if the switch was the problem. So connect the wires together and look at the screen and see if that fixed the problem. If you have access to a voltmeter and you'd like to test the switch to see if it's working, set your voltmeter to continuity so that the probes make a beeping noise when they're touched together, and touch one of the probes to the middle and then one of the probes to the front terminal, and then push the switch in. This indicates that the switch is working. If you were to do this and not get the tone, then it means the switch is bad. When you have the new switch, to remove this from the bracket, press on this bottom section and allow the bottom to just come out like that, and then the switch pops out. To put the new switch in, it's just the reverse, and the switch snaps in place. The wiring, up at the top of the switch, there is a 1, a 2, and a 3 for the positions of these terminals on the inside. The black wire would go on position number 2, and the red wire goes on the front, position number 1, when you return the switch back to the vault. If bypassing the switch by connecting the wires together does not solve the problem, then the problem must exist in the wiring. The wiring from the vault door switch leaves the back of the switch and heads up to this small white connector here. From the white, this allows you to replace just this one wiring section if that needed to be replaced. From the wire, from that white connector back, it goes back to the back of the vault and then up to the top to the motherboard. Here I've opened up the top of the machine and I've removed the two screws which hold the front bezel in place so I have better access to the motherboard. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove the cover of the motherboard from these two Phillips head screws in the upper corners. With the cover removed, the door switch terminates at this JP15 connector in the bottom right corner of the motherboard. There are just two wires going to this connector, a black and a red, and it has a label on it, JP15. This applies to ACU6, ACU7, ACU3, ACU5, ACU1. It's always in the same position and it's always JP15. Make sure that the connector is in all the way first so that it's making a good connection. And if that doesn't fix the problem, then there's something wrong with the wiring. Either a wire has been cut on one of the slide rails, or something has caused the wire to get broken, and we're going to need to try and bypass that. One way of doing that is to follow these wires down a little bit, and then you could cut them and you could twist them together to get the machine functional again. However, I have a trick that will do this without damaging the wires. If you need to bypass the vault door switch in order to bring a machine in service in the field because you don't have parts available, or it will, you want to keep the machine operating, again, this is intended as a temporary fix. But one thing you can do to bypass the switch and the wires if there's some kind of a problem is if you get a standard paper clip, and the inside of the paper clip has a smaller section. If you open the paper clip up like this, and what we want is this small U-shaped section. So if you take a pair of cutters and trim that, so you have this little small U section. With this section of paper clip, you can come in here between this JP15 connector, I'll unplug it so it's easier to see, and you can put it in between these two wires and stick it in between the plastic connector, and that will effectively jump these two terminals together and bypass the switch. This way you don't have to permanently damage these wires or have to replace them later on. If you want to, you can leave it in here if you don't mind if the switch works, or as I said, it can be a temporary fix to keep the machine operating until you can either replace the switch or replace the wires to fix the problem correctly. If you successfully jumper these two wires together and eliminate the wiring and the switch, and you still have a vault door open, then the only thing left it can be is the main board. Although I'll advise that that's incredibly rare, and we've had a handful of people suggest that they've done this and it didn't fix the problem. They send the board in for repair and it did not end up being a main board related issue. So make sure that if you're trying to bypass the switch, that you have a good connection, and if you're using the paperclip method as I demonstrated, make sure that paperclip is stuck between those two wires so you're effectively bridging them together, those pins. If you do have a voltmeter, this is another thing you can use to check to see if there's a problem with the wiring. I've connected my opposite probe to the red wire on the back of the switch, and up on top I'm going to take this probe and I'm going to touch it to the red wire with this little opening in the side of the connector. That means that the red wire is good. I don't have any problem there between the wire and between this connector and the switch. Do the same thing with the black wire to test it. So hopefully now you have an idea of how to diagnose and repair vault door switch issues, as well as some tips for how to bypass the switch in the field and keep a machine operable. If you have any questions about this, please contact Genmega support.